Welcome back to the main stage here at Týden Inovací at Innovation Week Prague. We have someone very exciting up next for you. Richard Yonck is a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, so we're in for a good talk right away, and a global futurist. He's spent his life literally looking at the means of change. He's written many books about it. He has non-fiction books about the future of artificial intelligence, and a really fun sci-fi novel that kind of is a scary side of it that's coming out right now as well. So you can check those out later if you're interested, but let me tell you a little more. He, as a global futurist, has been featured in the New York Times, in Wired, in Fast Company, he is advising companies that are Fortune 500s from Microsoft, Amazon, and the UN how to think about and prepare for the world we're headed into. So he's the guy literally advising those companies on how to think about it. So I'm very excited to have him here with us today. Richard Yonck, please welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margot. Wow, hello. Dobrý den. This is so exciting. I'm so excited. I am thrilled and honored to be here for the 10th annual Innovation Week. This has just been such an amazing couple of days of talks and insights, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I'm Richard Yonck. I'm a futurist, and that does not mean that I make predictions. What I do is I help to guide and advise audiences and corporations and organizations about how different aspects of change are likely to affect them, their society, their customers, and so forth. And today, not surprisingly, I'm going to be talking about the future of innovation a little bit. This is something that I think is going to be dear to everyone's heart here. And I'd like to start off with the idea that innovation is probably the most powerful force for change in our world. Lots of people have said this, including Bill Gates, but I'm actually going to go one better and say that we would not be the species we are today without innovation, technology, and so forth. 4 million years ago, Australopithecus began forming stone tools, got on the ladder of technological change and innovation, and essentially we've been on that ladder ever since. And it has led to so many transformations in our world, because even as we were, over those 4 million years, creating new technologies, innovating new institutions, new ways of doing things, even things as fundamental as language and speech, it was changing us. It was transforming us, our bodies, our minds, our societies, and cultures. So this is something that's been going on for a long time. It's still going on, and it's been accelerating. When we look at all of the changes that have occurred across those 4 million years, it's really phenomenal, but really stands out just how much that has accelerated. People talk about accelerating change, and we are a little far ahead there. People talk about accelerating change and how rapidly it has been happening in recent years. This has been a trend that's been going on. It's just starting to catch up to a point where it is incredibly noticeable in our current daily world. So why is this happening? There are a lot of different reasons, but one of the biggest ones, I think, is the nature of networks. When we communicate, when we go from being a single individual to communities, societies, working together, we are able to do so much more because we are bringing together minds and viewpoints and perspectives that wouldn't join together otherwise. And it has a synergistic effect. It leads to so many new innovations ultimately that we as individuals couldn't possibly bring about. But there are also a range of misconceptions that I'd like to begin with before we get into the future of innovation, just to dispel a little bit. One of these that I like to talk about is the myth of the the lone inventor, this heroic idea of a figure, a Thomas Edison, a Tony Stark, an Elon, who come along and go into their labs, go somewhere and bring these amazing technologies down to us from on high, like Prometheus from the gods or whatever, bringing down fire. The reality is no one works in a vacuum. The reality is that these technologies all operate and take place and are innovated in a society that has a history of technology and infrastructure, all of the learning that that person was able to do. So in many respects, I think it's far more accurate to take something like what Sir Isaac Newton said, which was, if I have seen further, it is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. This captures much more the idea that this is a group effort. This is something that we all do together. And it's phenomenal because when you think about, we take a concept from our minds, and because of how our hands evolved, how our minds evolved, how our societies evolved, we're able to bring these ideas forward into physical reality. We're able to communicate with each other, to share a dream and a vision. And because of that, we have literally built everything that you see around you. There is nothing in this room other than each other. Our clothes, our cell phones, the lights, everything. We have created this, and it's because of innovation. Another misconception that I'd like to quickly dispel is invention and innovation are not the same thing. Invention is simply one of the stages of innovation. It's something that we do as a creative act, as a vision, but there's so much more that goes into bringing that into reality. The development, the marketing, the diffusion, the adoption, all of these are important in this process. And as you can see, we've had many, even in recent years since the Industrial Revolution, we've had a continuing pattern of this, moving through cycles that arguably are accelerating as well. And we're into one that is dealing with a lot of new capabilities with AI. So artificial intelligence is almost certainly going to be a huge part of our innovation ecosystem going forward. This is something I don't think anybody has any doubt about. We've talked about it so much in the past day and a half. But it's not the only thing. And even more so, everybody has been very, very excited in recent years, very recent years, with generative AI, the likes of ChatGPT, LLMs, transformer models. All of these are incredible. They're powerful, but depending on where you want to measure from, they've been around a few years, possibly less than 10. AI has been going on for 75, 80 years. And it's important to recognize this is just another step. This is another stage. We have a lot of hype going on where we're hearing that generative AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whoever, is going to lead to artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, the rise of the robots, and so on and so forth, Skynet. All of these things are, at a certain level, I'm afraid, hype. These are important technologies. They're scary at a certain level, but they are also our tools. AI of this level does not have agency yet. It's basically, I like to explain to people that it's actually a new form of data management, a new UI, a new user interface for us to interact with our information. Because when people say, oh, ChatGPT, it seems alive, it seems so real. Well, we've been pouring ourselves onto the internet for 30, 40 years. Everything about us, everything about our civilization, and it's been scraped in the past few years. And yeah, when it responds, it uses algorithms to average a lot of that information out, and surprise, it sounds a lot like us. It's a mirror. it's reflecting back on us what we have put into it all of these decades. So what's, I believe, really going to happen is in time, we're already developing a lot of different areas of artificial intelligence. These projects have been going on for a number of years. Some of them are continuing. And ideas like spatial intelligence, explainable AI, machine common sense, all of these are important aspects of artificial intelligence that are important to be able to align with human values, with how we need these tools to work with us. We are not going to get to the point where any of these ultimately think exactly like us. I talk about this in my books at great length, that really we're starting from such a fundamentally different point, that these technologies, these AI technologies, they're going to be amazing tools. We want them to be. We want them to do things better and faster than we could do. Otherwise, what's the point? But they are still going to achieve many of these things differently than we do. And that it leads to a range of different types of problems. Where all of this, I believe, is leading relative to our talks and our conference this week is AI-enhanced innovation. The idea that we can utilize these tools to change how we innovate, to literally drive the future innovation of innovation. But not just AI-driven innovation. This is going to be a partnership, just like we've been in partnership for so long with our other tools. The difference here is we're able to interact differently with these tools. We're moving into an era where we're going to increasingly be working side by side with our AIs, eventually our robots, essentially having what some people have referred to as a relationship with our cobots, our robotic coworkers. These are new opportunities to essentially draw on the skills that AI and automation can do better than we can, while bringing our skills, the things that we as human beings still do better, together, so that ultimately we can improve our processes, our outcomes, and so forth. Ultimately, we're moving toward AI-driven innovation that is leading to new protein design, drug discovery, cross-domain knowledge fusion, all kinds of ways that we're going to essentially utilize this to improve how we innovate, how we do discovery, how we design, how we explore an entire domain space. This is, I think, where the real power comes in. This is not a panacea. There are a lot of things we'll talk about in a minute where essentially we can't just say, oh, AI is going to solve everything. It's not. It's going to have its problems. It's going to have challenges. And it's up to us, not the AI, to resolve that. As we move into this era, there are a lot of new technologies and a lot of new tools that we will incorporate into all of this. The concept of digital twins is something that has been developed and incrementally over time. We're going to continue to do this. Essentially, well, it sounds incredibly fancy, but really it's modeling. We're modeling our engines and our machines and our bodies and even the world's environment in order to be able to have accurate ways to test virtually before we release things into the world, in order to solve the problems as much as we can on the drawing board before we actually move into reality. IoT, the Internet of Things, has been a concept for a couple of decades. The idea of having not just millions, but billions, even potentially trillions of minute sensors in the environment. There's so many things we can do with this in terms of protecting and monitoring our infrastructure, being able to protect the environment, managing our crops, and so forth. Imagine utilizing a tool like this to actually be able to go all the way from the planting and harvesting stages, making sure the nutrients are where they need to be throughout an entire crop, all the way to the store and distribution center to your refrigerator, all to make sure that the products are safe, they are as nutritious as they can be, and ultimately as inexpensive as they can be, because we're not losing so much to food loss and so forth. We have so much potential in our world to feed the world if we will put our efforts into that rather than into some of the things that maybe aren't as humanistic as we often do. The social media has been a rising problem in recent years. When we first were bringing it out, we were all so excited, many of us anyway. It had such potential, so much potential for the democratization of communication, of being able to make sure everyone's voices were being heard. But it didn't quite work out that way, did it? We are now in an era where we have deep fakes, we have so much misinformation being spread. How do we utilize the new tools, the new technologies that we have to try to mitigate this and get it under control? There are numerous projects in different labs and coming into the world already that help to automate the detection of deepfakes, of misinformation, so that we can essentially use some of the AI to look at and identify these problems. Transport is going to continue to develop. And one of the things that it does, besides moving us about, is we shape our cities based on this. If we look across history, cities are often shaped by the transportation of its times. How, as we move into an era of autonomous vehicles, of drone technology, even potentially flying cars, they will possibly come at some point. How will this alter our cities? If we don't need parking lots anymore, if we have different ways that we work from home, all of these things are going to change what a city needs to be. How can we make it more human and innovate new ways for us to essentially make the cities be positive places for us rather than what for many people is sometimes a scary place? Ultimately, it's all about what are we going to do to create the future ecosystem of innovation? How are we going to innovate innovation? How do we bring together the founders, the funders, the different forms of finance? How do we manage the regulation that is essential but can too often overreach? How can all of these be essentially turned around and rethought about as we build out our world? Already, the Czech Republic is doing all kinds of amazing things to work with new technologies. Just last month, you just unveiled a quantum computer. That's going to be incredible in terms of what it can do, because quantum computing is not going to do away with modern computing or traditional forms of computing. We'll still have the standard style of computing that we have, but these can do other types of things. They can do optimization, they can do encryption, they can essentially help us to modernize and improve our supply chains, our logistics, different aspects of traffic flow. There are just a lot of different ways that technologies like this can help us, rather than thinking that, oh, it's going to change everything we do with computing. Well, it's not quite that way, but there are a lot of ways that it's going to bring about new sensors, new forms of encryption, and so forth. The Czech Republic has its Institute of, get this right, informatics, robotics, and anyway, CIRRC, it's hard for me to remember sometimes, has been doing the phenomenal work. And they've just recently won an amazing contest in terms of their theorem prover. Just blew away the competition. So you should be very proud of this. And they are continuing to do incredible things on the world stage. The AI Gigafactory Hopefully that's going to become a reality. It's a strong chance it will. That's going to give the infrastructure here in the Czech Republic to be able to essentially be one of the centers for AI going forward. So all of these are really, really important. The thing is, we have a number of things to still overcome. Right now, we're in a period where it's not just AI. A lot of different technologies and a lot of different companies have entered into an era where they're focusing far more on the quarterly spreadsheets, the quarterly returns, the shareholder value, rather than what are they creating of value for society, for the end user, for their customers. Do we really need another whatever, another aspect, upgrade to our Word documents and so forth, word processing? We have got to get this under control because there's no two ways about it. In the innovation cycle, there are continual ups and downs. That's just how it's designed, how it works. But we've entered a period where we are actually overfunding certain projects. Remember where we were with bubbles recently, with the metaverse, NFTs. These are all technologies that will one day be important, that will continue to develop and become very, very valuable. But technology takes time. We can't rush it to the point where just because the marketing and the founders say, it's right around the corner. We've got AGI coming up next year. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's too many realities that have to be dealt with. So we have to deal with our hype bubbles. Ultimately, it's about people. How are we going to deal with problems like AI bias, the different inequities that come about as technology is diffused through society in differing degrees depending on where you are in the economic strata? These are important factors to consider as we look to creating a world where everyone essentially benefits from this new world of technology rather than just people at the top. Workforce loss is something that has been a huge worry for people for a very long time. But it's really come to the fore in the past decade, in part because of some reports that predicted half of us were going to lose our jobs by the 2030s. I really do not think that AI and automation are going to lead to that level of problem and loss, but it's still going to do away with various jobs, just like technology always has as it rolls out. As it happens more quickly, how do we retrain people? How do we deal with the realities of a world where a person who's now in their 40s suddenly doesn't have the skill set that they need? You can't just go back to school for 4 years, 6 years to catch up. We have to change our education system, our economic system, our tax systems, the corporate approach to both retraining and hiring so that we support and recognize the value of our employees and essentially incorporate a lifelong learning model where our society begins to think, it's not just about going to school till I'm in my early 20s or late 20s and then I'm done, but that there are ways that we can have ongoing certification, ongoing training, upskilling, even within the corporate structure, so that people's lives and that legacy knowledge are not so disrupted over time. All of these are leading to an amazing sets of future tools that, as so many, most tools that we create have incredible opportunities, incredible positive aspects, but nearly every single one also has risks and challenges as well. How do we anticipate and deal with those challenges going forward? One that I often talk about is technology assessment. The idea of using AI-enhanced technology assessment, I think, is really a way to get around this. The US from like the 1970s had the Office of Technology Assessment became a model around the world. Unfortunately, due to some political matters, that went away in the US. There's been some replacement. But what if technology assessment became an early stage part of every innovation cycle, that founders actually had access to these tools to be able to understand what are the problems, what are the possible ways that the primary, secondary, and tertiary knock-on effects of this new technology being brought out, how it might affect people that we aren't otherwise anticipating, and what can we do to create safeguards, to put on guardrails, and so forth, rather than waiting until the horse is out of the barn. Ultimately, it all feeds into anticipatory governance. We've talked about a little bit about the idea of AI governance, that need to be able to have degrees of regulation and policies in place and so forth. But on the opposite side of that equation is utilizing things like artificial intelligence, utilizing futures methodologies to help government to be able to, and technology assessment, to help government be able to operate more smoothly, more rapidly, and be ahead of the curve rather than routinely with new technologies responding too late and sometimes having technological overreach. When it comes down to it, what we really want to think about is how do we make our products better for humanity? Is it really that important that we are able to deliver a pizza 3 minutes quicker versus getting life-saving assistance to someone in need that much quicker? Think about what we can do to drive forward humanistic technologies and use cases so that we can have a better world. We have the potential to feed everyone on this planet if we will only use the tools that we have. It's not that impossible, but we also do spend an awful lot of time doing things that are to its detriment. Ultimately, this is about how do we create a world that is not just better for ourselves, but for our children, our children's children, and for the generations to come. Thank you so much for listening. I'm futurist Richard Yonck. Take a look at some of my books on the future of artificial intelligence. And you're all, by the way, invited to the Globe bookstore on October 27th, where I'll be giving the European launch, a book talk and book signing of my new science fiction novel, Mindstock. Also, please fill out your session survey at the end of on your app and let us know how we did. Thank you all so much.
Richard, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you
so much.
Very much and all of your insights. We are going into another session in 10 minutes, but I just want to say, what an amazing expert to have with us here. Thank you for coming all the way and sharing your expertise, Richard.
Thank you so much, Margot.